Welcome back. Let's head to the UK, where New Year's celebrations are just wrapping up for some. Joining me from London is writer and commentator Esther Krakue. Esther, Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year to you too.
Well, it's about 9 a.m. there. You look pretty good for someone at 9 a.m. on New Year's Day.
Yes, I'm under a mountain of concealer.
Hey, let's start with politics. This year is set to be an election year in the UK. Labour leader Keir Starmer is leading in the polls. Just imagine with me, what would a Keir Starmer-led UK look like if he manages to get up and win?
Well, this is the million-dollar question, because we don't actually know, because not even knowing his political convictions, we actually don't know what his policy agenda will be. I mean, we've seen some hints of what his immigration policy would be, particularly to do with the small boats, and it's looking a lot like Tory policy. You know, his officials are contemplating an offshoring scheme, much like the Rwanda policy that they've been so disparaging of over the last 18 months. But we really don't know his stance on anything, on what economic policy would be, on many fronts, really. And the issue here is Keir Starmer is someone who's effectively changed his political opinion so much. This was Jeremy Corbyn's right-hand man. This is someone that back in 2009 was petitioning an Islamist terrorist group that was banned in Germany, and petitioning the ECHR to say that they should actually be allowed to operate because their human rights were being breached. This is someone that has always been consistently very far left. But suddenly now he seems like the second incoming of Tony Blair. So we really don't know what to expect. And that's the frightening thing. I think the Tories have created such dissatisfaction that we might end up getting, a worse version of the Labour Party that we don't even expect, because we don't know.
Well, like you, I'm not sure what Keir Starmer's economics or foreign policy is like, but if he's to become England's next PM, I hope it's better than his biology. Here he is 2 years ago insisting that it's not only women who can have a cervix.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. But
And a few months ago, he had to clarify for the Sunday Times that women don't have penises, or at least, and I quote, 99.9% of women don't have a penis, he said. This issue's been a big problem for the Labour leader, this idea of what is a woman and how do you define a woman. How do you lead a world power in a dangerous world if you either don't know what a woman is or you're too afraid to say?
Yes, I mean, he really underestimated how much this would be a problem for him. But people are right to ask the question, because this is someone that could potentially be leading this country, and he doesn't even know what half of the population is. He's been known within his party to treat the whole trans issue as something that's, a cultural problem. It's not really relevant, but it does have practical implications, specifically on the legal level. If you can't even define what a woman is, you end up having biological men that are clearly mentally unwell, for a good chunk of them, or predators that end up in women's prisons, in women's toilets, in women's sports, for instance. And this is something that he really needs to grapple with. The reality is, the heart of the issue is, we don't know this man's political convictions, because he's a fraud, because he's changed his opinions on so many things, because all he wants is to gain power. And unfortunately, the Tories have basically left the country with no other option. Keir Starmer and the Labour Party aren't leading in the polls because there's such huge enthusiasm for Keir Starmer. Most people don't know where he stands. But it's because the Tory Party have let the country down so much that we effectively have no other alternative.
Amazing. Let's go to European politics. Former Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage has made headlines suggesting the European Union could be at the beginning of its end, at least in its current form. And he says that's because of the populist surge that we're seeing across Europe. You've got the likes of Geert Wilders winning the Dutch election. You've got Giorgia Meloni in Italy, Marine Le Pen in France. Take a look at this other European politician who fills me with great hope for the future of Europe. Swedish European Parliament member Sarah Skytedal taking down her Irish counterpart Mick Wallace over his anti-Israel stance. Have a listen to this.
This is a war that started because of terrorism, a war between a democratic state and a terrorist group. But in your upside-down world, you are calling the democratic state the terrorists, and not even mentioning the atrocities committed by Hamas. This, my dear colleagues, is a clear example of the batshit crazy left that does not belong in any elected chamber, let alone this one.
Esther, I like her style. Are we finally starting to see a pushback against progressivism throughout Europe?
I mean, this was always going to be one of the problems that the EU has to deal with. I'm even surprised that it's managed to survive this long with such fractures amongst its member states. The reality is, I mean, from its inception, the EU was either too big or too misaligned with many of the founding members, and this is the problem that you're having now. I mean, for the fact that most EU member states don't actually have a lot of flexibility when it comes to their own immigration is really starting to bite them, because now they're noticing, lack of integration of many mass migration groups, the downward pressure that mass migration is having on wages, and so many associated issues. And, this is one of the things that we cited in Brexit, but it's becoming really well known in other European countries, and it's really becoming a bone of contention. I think Nigel Farage is right in the sense that this could be something that would be a prolonged issue for the EU, because you do need to give member states a degree of flexibility. But it's also the principle of the nation state. If you can't control your own borders, you don't have a country.
Yeah.
And for people to be told that they're xenophobic or horrible because they don't want certain groups into their country is really going to be the EU's undoing.
Esther, we've only got a short time left, but quickly I want to talk about a Sudanese man who snuck into Britain illegally, and now he's being allowed to remain in the country on human rights grounds, despite the fact MI5 warn he's an ISIS fanatic who poses a terror threat. This is a joke, surely.
Yes, apparently the human rights of the British public don't seem to matter very much in this case. But this man is clearly an ISIS propagandist. Issues with integration, particularly with refugees, has always been a big problem. Since 1998, 1 in 4 terrorist offences have had to do with people from asylum backgrounds. And so that's something that we really have to focus on. The fact that this man is being allowed to remain in the UK, even though he's propagandizing on behalf of terrorist groups, just shows the state of asylum in this country.
Absolutely amazing. Esther Krakue, thank you so much for your time.